The City of Lost Heaven goes all the way back to 1998, when a small Czech studio called Illusion Softworks began working on what was originally a simple 1930s driving game, kind of like Driver. But pretty early on, the team realized they wanted to do something bigger, something with grit and cinematic weight. Inspired by films like The Godfather and Goodfellas, they started building a world that wasn't just about cars and chases, but about people, choices, and the consequences of living a life in organized crime. That's when Mafia really started to take shape, and the name said it all. This wasn't just a game about gangsters. It was a deep dive into the structure, rules, and betrayal within a crime family. Set in the fictional city of Lost Heaven, a mix of 1930s New York and Chicago, Mafia put you in the shoes of Tommy Angelo, a regular taxi driver who ends up working for the Salieri family after one bad night changes his life. And what made this game so special at the time wasn't just the story, it was the sheer level of detail. Every car was modeled after real vehicles from the era, with authentic handling, gear shifts, and even fuel consumption. You could literally run out of gas mid-mission. Cars took visible damage. Doors could fall off, tires could burst, engines could stall, and the cops didn't mess around either. They'd pull you over for speeding, running red lights, or reckless driving. There was a full day-night cycle, dynamic weather, detailed interiors, and a haunting orchestral score recorded by the Bohemian Symphony Orchestra. Unlike other crime games of the era, Mafia didn't glorify the gangster life. It showed its cost, the paranoia, the regret, the price of loyalty. When it launched in 2002, it stood in stark contrast to the chaos and comedy of GTA III. It was slower, more grounded, but far more cinematic, and over time it earned its place as a cult classic. This was where the Mafia series began. After the success of the first game, expectations were sky high for what would come next. Development on Mafia II began not long after the original, but it wouldn't hit the shelves until 2010, almost 8 years later. This time, Illusion Softworks, now rebranded as 2K Czech, wanted to push everything even further and built Mafia II from the ground up with a brand new engine. Mafia II was packed with small details that most players didn't even realize at first. Cars could be refueled and repaired, weapons had realistic reloading animations, and characters left footprints in the snow. You could change clothes to avoid police searches. Windows shattered realistically under gunfire. The game's physics were powered by the impressive Havoc engine, giving everything from car crashes to shootouts a visceral, weighty feel. And then there was the licensed soundtrack. More than 120 classic tracks from artists like Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, and Bing Crosby. But more than anything, Mafia II was about the story. It was darker, more personal, and more tragic than its predecessor. It followed Vito Scaletta, who wasn't a hero. He was a man chasing the American dream in a world that only offered it at gunpoint. After the rich, tragic story of Mafia II, the series took a bold new direction. Mafia III, developed by the newly formed Hangar 13 studio and released in 2016. This time, everything changed. The setting, the story, even the kind of character you played. Instead of a classic mobster story, Mafia III dropped you into 1968 New Bordeaux, a city based on New Orleans, right in the middle of one of the most chaotic times in American history. You played as Lincoln Clay, a Vietnam vet trying to start over. But when the Italian mob kills the only family he's ever had, Lincoln decides he's not just going to get revenge. He's going to take over everything. Mafia III wasn't just another crime game. It went places that most games wouldn't dare. Racism, war trauma, corruption. It was all baked right into the world. You could feel it in the way people treated you on the street, how cops acted depending on the neighborhood you were in. It made the game feel real in a way few open-world games ever had. The gameplay shifted too. It wasn't just about doing jobs anymore, it was about taking over the city. Players could attack rackets, recruit lieutenants, and decide who would control each piece of the empire. Choices had real consequences, leading to different alliances and betrayals, depending on how ruthless or loyal you were. And the world they built? It was beautiful and brutal at the same time. Gritty streets, neon lights, swamps full of mist, music pouring out of every bar and car radio. The soundtrack was packed with legends. Yeah, Mafia III had its problems. Missions got a little repetitive after a while, and there were bugs when it first came out. But for a lot of players, it didn't matter. Years later, after the original games had earned their place as cult classics, 2K decided it was time to bring the Mafia series back for a new generation. A full remake of the first game and remastered versions of Mafia II and Mafia III. They knew these stories deserved another moment in the spotlight, and they wanted players to experience them with fresh eyes. Mafia II Definitive Edition. This time, it wasn't a full ground-up remake, it was a remaster. The goal was to bring Vito Scaletta's story to a new generation, updating the graphics, refining the audio, and bundling in all of the original game's DLC content into one complete package. At its core, the heart of Mafia II remained untouched. Players still followed Vito's journey from a poor immigrant kid to a made man in the Empire Bay underworld. The remaster brought improved textures, better lighting, sharper character models, and updated environmental details that helped the 1940s and 50s setting feel richer and more vibrant. Buildings looked crisper, cars reflected the world around them more realistically, and weather effects like rain and snow were given more depth and atmosphere. However, this game wasn't without its flaws. While the visual upgrades made a difference, there were still some old technical issues from the original game, like minor bugs, stiff animations, and occasional performance drops carried over into the remaster. Mafia III Definitive Edition. Launched alongside Mafia II in May 2020, this version of Mafia III bundled the base game with all previously released DLC and bonus story content, giving players the complete experience in one package. The core game itself remained unchanged, taking down the Italian mob and building your own criminal empire piece by piece. The story, world design, and gameplay mechanics were exactly as they were in the 2016 release, with no major graphical or performance upgrades. What the Definitive Edition offered was convenience and completeness. It included all 3 story expansions: Faster Baby, Stones Unturned, and Sign of the Times, right from the start, along with additional weapons, outfits, and cars that were previously only available through add-ons or deluxe versions. For new players, it was the easiest way to jump into the most modern entry in the series. While it didn't bring anything new to the table technically, Mafia III Definitive Edition helped round out the trilogy, making sure all 3 games were available in one consistent, accessible collection. In September 2020, 2K released Mafia Definitive Edition. It wasn't just a simple update, it was a full remake, built completely from the ground up. While the missions and story arcs from the 2002 classic were faithfully carried over, everything else was recreated with new assets, richer performances, and expanded storytelling. Once again, players stepped into the shoes of Tommy Angelo navigating the streets of Lost Heaven, either on foot or behind the wheel. But this time, for the first time in the series, motorcycles were added, giving players a new way to explore the city. The gameplay was modernized too. Mechanics were updated using the smoother systems from Mafia III, making movement, combat, and driving feel more natural without losing the original sense of weight and realism. A classic difficulty mode was also introduced for players who wanted a more authentic 2002-style challenge, tweaking ammo limits, enemy toughness, and police responses to bring back the original's unforgiving atmosphere. Outside of the main story, Definitive Edition included a free ride mode, a direct nod to the original game, where players could explore Lost Heaven freely without any mission objectives. Now, the Mafia story is heading back to where it all began, not just in theme, but in time. The next game in the series, Mafia: The Old Country, developed by Hangar 13 and is shaping up to be something very different. According to recent leaks, it's set to launch on August 8th, 2025 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X or S, and PC, built entirely for next-gen platforms. This time, we're leaving behind the American cities and going back to early 1900s Sicily, a place and time where the Mafia was just starting to take shape. There are no muscle cars or Tommy guns here, just feuds, blood oaths, and the raw beginnings of what would become a global criminal empire. You'll likely play as a young man caught between poverty, family duty, and rising violence, trying to survive in a world built on loyalty, tradition, and silent codes. The game is being built in Unreal Engine 5, so visually it's expected to be stunning. Imagine sun-soaked villages, crumbling stone streets, candlelit churches, and dusty countryside roads. Gameplay-wise, it's rumored to lean more toward the style of Mafia Definitive Edition, with a strong linear story and immersive missions, rather than a huge sandbox. There's no word on multiplayer, and all signs point to a single-player, narrative-driven experience, like the classics. The Old Country isn't just going to tell another crime story. It's looking to show how it all started, how the rules were written, how the Code of Silence was born, and how the Mafia became more than just crime. It became a way of life. If it lives up to the vision, this could be the most atmospheric and personal Mafia game yet. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the evolution of the Mafia series. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more exciting content.